So send an email to beaglebone@googlegroups.com that I'll post onto this list. But this is our support forum.
So how does that work again? So we just send it generically?
If you just send generically an email to that address, it'll eventually go through. You can CC me if you want.
Is that at so that you don't have a?
It's not going to discourage spam bots too much, but I already get enough spam bots.
Okay, so but that's what the purpose is.
It's just you'll get too many of them if you just put the at in it. But if you use the word at, it cuts out maybe 50% of them. I don't know. They'll still find they're pretty smart.
Really not smart.
Who helped me before on this? TBR. Cannot remember my magic IRC foo, but that's really frustrating. All right, so we've decided we want to get a certain driver. We've found or not found the driver. But the important thing now is we've gone out and we tested this before, which is really weird. But the Freenode guy seems to have changed it. So we've gone out. We asked on the mailing. We asked on the IRC channel. We could chat about it there, and maybe ZMAT is super responsive. TBR, there's a bunch of people on there that are pretty good. That might just answer your question. You sent a message to the mailing list. You've waited 24 hours since posting to the mailing list, and you haven't gotten any useful response. That's when you call my phone number, and just not get it on the camera, but.
I shouldn't say that loud for the camera to catch.
That is off camera, right? You can give this to your friends and buddies. It actually rings my cell phone. I may or may not answer if I don't know the number, but you can leave me a voicemail. You can send me a text message. I don't mind if you do it multiple times and you're asking me. You're not going to make me angry. You're not going to make me want to never talk to you again. You're not. This conversation may be pretty short. It's like, first thing I'm going to ask you is, well, did you post something to the mailing list, right? And you can, you can also send me an email ahead of time. But as long as you posted to the mailing list and given it 24 hours, you should get something useful back. If you didn't get something useful back, I want to be called. I want to make sure that people are getting responses like this. So it could be, it's like, well, I'll check my email and I'll reply back to you. Either way, now I know there's a problem, because otherwise things go for a while and I may not know. So just call me. Okay, so now we've gotten all the way to the phone call. Now we can kind of back. Is that whole process clear? There's a way for you to get there. We're gonna get whatever little thing you want to hook up. We're gonna get it hooked up and working. There's a way to get there from here. Ultimately we'll put into. It may take a few days, but it's gonna go into the kernel. there's an overlay that's going to go into this. Then that'll eventually go into the overnight, the nightly builds, and then there'll be a new SD card image. And then you can, just like we've done before, you can program that SD card image onto your board. And then if you want to use an overlay that's not in there by default, you have to edit that boot UENV file. For one of the sets of instructions, I provided a simple sed command that would do that for you, so that you could copy and paste the thing that would edit the file for you. I don't know how useful that is for people that are scared of text editors, but there's essentially a one-liner that you can copy. Did you see that one? I'm trying to think who or was it, I don't remember which. Here, let me just show you instead of talking in the abstract. It might be for, yeah, here we go.
Oh, yeah,
so this is installing the audio driver. There was, so yeah, so it was for the audio driver. These first two steps, I'm expecting, let's forget these two, right? Let's say we're going to get it into the kernel, and so it'll be in the image, so you don't need to try to put it in the kernel. Let's forget about that step. Let's say we're going to get a new image, so you don't need to build the device tree overlay. So let's forget about building the device tree overlay, because if you get a new image, it's going to be there. But now we still do need to enable it. So this is magic foo that places the link to the overlay into the boot configuration file. We could probably make this even simpler, right? We could probably make a shell, just like a command that just all you have to do is specify this name. If that's too much of an issue, if this is really too much to copy, editing the text file. I don't know what the bar is, right? We'll keep lowering it until we get there.
The bar is to have steps to get to an objective, a physical objective. So my physical objective is send a WAV file command through my speaker. Then first it's grab the latest image.
Grab the latest image, so I don't have to worry about the kernel driver, I don't have to worry about is the overlay written.
Then it's figure out that the latest image didn't activate this overlay.
Activate the overlay. That's the thing that you're always going to have to do if it's not something there by default.
How do we know if it's not there by default?
Is it part of the Beaglebone Blue itself, or is it something that's you add on externally? Now, if you're doing a scuttle image, somebody can do this step for you, right? You can make a scuttle image such that, like somebody takes our images with whatever feature that they need, they customize it, they do this, and they write the SD card and they write the disk image back to a file, and they compress that file and then they distribute it to everybody else.
I think that's what Danielle did for us.
Then you won't have to do this step. Okay? But if you're going and grabbing a fresh image from us, and you've worked with us to make sure that the driver support is there for whatever you want to talk to, you at least need to go and enable it, because it's not in the Beaglebone Blue itself. Right? We're not going to go enable something that's not there for everybody. It just doesn't. That part doesn't make sense. So you either have to customize it yourself or run this command and reboot. And after you
in the case of the audio, we didn't have to do this, right? This is already
not for the USB, because they're self-discoverable.
the USB.
The USB audio is discoverable. The other audio board, right there, for the UDA 1334, it's not on a discoverable bus. It's on I2S. So you need to load the driver.
Through this process.
So he's going to leave out in his video, he's going to leave out those first two steps because he's going to get an image that has those two things in it. I think tonight's nightly should already have it. I mean, last night's nightly, yeah.
Okay.
So we should try last night's nightly today and just do this command right here.
Okay.
That is.
We enable the overlay, we shut down, boot up again. And then we're gonna
Well, whatever it is for running that particular device. If it's an audio device, here I'm saying do aplay-l to list off the different devices. You can see there's the name of the card right there that we want. That's this default blah blah blah. And we do aplay blah 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 and play the sound. I figured out why it wasn't playing for me yesterday is because when we were in here playing with the USB dongles, I wrote my .asoundrc so it wouldn't grab the default because I'd specified it in my asoundrc. So again, you don't, once you put it in the asoundrc, you don't have to type in this gobbledygook. But that's why it didn't work for me yesterday for a bit. It's because I had created one and I pointed to the wrong card. Because I just done it for an example for you guys. I hadn't done it anyway. And then this is the overlay for that one. This is a little bit more complicated because it requires some pin muxing and setting up a new driver for the bus. The I2C ones are going to be pretty simple. Back to kernel resources. So.
So when we add a kernel driver, the customizations that take us from the Linux kernel to the Debian image that describe the hardware on the Beagle route whatever information is in the driver through the hardware on the Beagle to do the job. So the driver
routes the
added
interface to the hardware of the Beagle, yes. Is that not?
Is the driver for the Beagle or is the driver for Linux?
Yes and yes. Right.
So
it's
if I'm Googling or searching in any way for
Linux. Yeah, if you're looking for these device drivers, they're really not specific to Beagle.
Right. So somewhere there's the code that tells your Linux OS how to route stuff to hardware on Beagle. And that would be in
the part that connects the driver to where it's actually wired up on Beagle is the device tree.
Oh.
So it's like, okay, the Linux kernel driver says, okay, I talk to this device over I2C or SPI or maybe GPIO pins or maybe whatever different interfaces. I know that I talk to it using that, but I don't know where you've hooked it up. So wherever you've actually wired it to, that's determined in the device tree. The nice thing about the Beaglebone Blue, for me in my life, is that it has these rather discrete little connectors where you can say, I'm going to plug it into connector, A, B, or C, right? And there's generally one right way to connect it into connector A, B, or C. So I can create one overlay that says how I connect it up to port A, and make that overlay for you. Yeah. I2C, I think there's a single I2C header on here. You can then break it out to other I2Cs. Like you can put a multiplexer on it if you want to have multiple I2C devices off of it. So that's an option. The next step that I would have to go through once we said we found a driver is to start creating that device tree, is to look at the device tree binding information for that particular device. So I think we were looking at this one at one point. I think, is that one looked like low-hanging fruit? Right, so one of these has a Honeywell 5883L. You have that one? So this one should be really easy to get working because this is what I need to add to my I2C bus, right there. Obviously, I need to change the 5843 to 5883L and put that into an overlay that goes into my I2C bus.
The gap that I have is once this is configured in our software, then how do I
How do you
start
use
talking
it? How do you
to-
start talking
How
to
do I
it?
start talking to it in
Yeah.
Python?
Yeah. So for IIO devices, we're just going to talk to about IIO